everybody. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I was very inspired by the previous session talking about energy, and I like to think that we've all traveled a very long time to be here together, and there's an incredible energy in the room. And therefore, I think it's even more important that we get to share these stories about the impact that we're able to make, but also the reasons we decided to make this impact. So before I go on, I wanted to ask everybody here a question. If any of you were feeling a little unwell or a little sick, do you have confidence that you could maybe send a text message or reach out to a doctor almost immediately and get medical help? Let's see a show of hands. Happy to see that most of the room said yes. And I used to think that this is a basic fundamental human right that every single person has access to. And so let me tell you a little bit of a funny story. So in 2020, I was in the US on exchange, having the time of my life. You know, finally my grades in school didn't really matter because it was pass-fail, was exploring the US, having the best time. But all of this was cut short drastically because of the coronavirus pandemic. And I would see posts from Hong Kong, and for those of you who might not know, we probably had one of the longest coronavirus periods in the world because we had quarantine for way longer than everybody else did. And so I would, try to keep in touch with my friends, and they would say, oh, people are getting COVID, but don't worry, it's nothing too serious. And of course, for those of you who were at the fishbowl session yesterday, I mentioned I love social media. And so I was also keeping up with what was happening around the world. And even though I've never lived in India, I'm very proud to be ethnically Indian. And I was on Twitter, and I would see floods of tweets of people saying that every single day the death rate is increasing all around the world. And in India, it was getting even worse because there was a very big portion of the population there that just never had access to basic health care, which meant if they had a cough, where if I had a cough, I would be like, oh, let me take a rat test, or let me take some sort of a help to fix that. They didn't have an option. And so that's when I realized that in this world, there are still 4.5 billion people who do not have access to basic health care. And we wanted to change that. So during the pandemic, we realized that hospitals and medical centers have very limited machinery. So specifically for the virus, one of the machines you had to use were CT scanning machines or MRI machines, which if you've seen are pretty humongous. So that means these hospitals can only stock very few of them. Now, the second thing is that these scans are time consuming. You can't have 3, 4, 5 people all enter the MRI or CT scan machines at the same time to get scans. You have to wait for the first person to finish, and then the second person goes in, and there's a very big time in between where you clean the machinery. And then the third and most unfortunate part is that these machines are also expensive, which means you can't have these hospitals or expect them to have millions and millions of these machines to make everything a lot more efficient. And so me and my team, who you'll meet very soon, decided to take things into our own hands. So we joined our experience of business knowledge, healthcare interest, and technology expertise to try to create a solution that would at least mediate this problem. And so these are probably very early stage photos of what the product looked like. The leftmost photo is the first prototype we created with lying around Raspberry Pis, which is courtesy of my friends who are engineers. I do not have Raspberry Pis lying around for fun. We joined a bunch of wires and tried to create this first prototype that would allow us to take data from a physical part and send it to a cloud to store on a server. And then we were able to use a lot of machine learning from open source data online to try to essentially create heat maps of organs and then try to link that onto an actual portal. But now what I'll show you is the actual solution that we've been able to develop today. So this is a video that if I press play, should play. And if it doesn't play, there will be a QR code later that you can scan. But essentially, as you can see here on the top left, that's a person in Hong Kong who is wearing the electrodes that we created. Now, those are very bare, just to show you what it looks like. But in reality, our product is a band that you can strap around your chest, you can strap around your head, depending on what part of your body you want to scan. And there are little electrodes that send small pulses of electric current through your body that stop at organ tissue. So essentially, it allows you to conduct real-time internal organ scanning without the need for a massive machine like a CT scan or MRI. But the more crucial part is that all of this information here at the bottom that is actually gibberish to me and probably to most of you is super crucial information for doctors to understand how serious or not serious a patient's condition is. And so what we thought is if we can get this technology to people who don't have access to healthcare, and all they have to do is strap on a device and wait for around about 7 to 8 minutes with the data transmitted directly through cloud to a doctor, they are now able to prioritize that, okay, this person's scan looks pretty bad. It looks like 80% of their lung has already been damaged. They are the people we should call in first to use these machines that we have limited numbers of, treat them first, and then go on, so on and so forth. It shouldn't be a first come, first serve situation where maybe the people who have a little bit more money can go and get those scans first. And so we created this prototype, and now I actually want to invite the rest of my team, Anupam and Neil, to come up, because I think we really embody what social cohesion means. Again, I came here from Hong Kong, we met in the US, and all of us are ethnically Indian. And I think we bring a great example of what it's like to try and use the little experience that you have to make a difference. And now, as a WSA Youth Ambassador as well, I want to inspire more people who feel like, you might sometimes be too young to make a difference, or what possible can one person do to, make a dent in the large problems of the world, and realize that you can always make a difference. The most important part is to just try. And so since then, we've been, thank you. But since then, we've been very grateful to have won the Google Solution Challenge. And so now we are actually working with Google researchers all around the world to try to further improve our technology, make it cheaper to manufacture. We've deployed this technology in 2 rural villages in India, so where people who are unfortunately living in slums and don't know what healthcare even means, now don't need to predict that a cough will go away on its own and can actually seek valid medical help. And we're trying to use all of this impact to make a difference. So thank you so much, and join us on making healthcare accessible to everybody.
Thank you, Anushka.